Warning, Supernatural The Crossroads contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue to listen.
Oh, Dad. Oh, Dad. Oh, Dad.
I went to the crossroads. Fell down on my
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Supernatural The Crossroads. I am your host, Thomas Cowley. Joined with me, as always, is Ryan Denton.
What's up?
And Michael Flores.
Turns out I did shoot the deputy.
Guys, we want to thank you for listening to Supernatural The Crossroads on Rain Man Digital Crossroads 003. If you haven't gotten it already, make sure to get the Rain Man Digital app. That's in the iTunes Store and Google Play. Just search Rain Man. You can listen to all the shows on the go, previous episodes, and all the other shows on the network. Today, we're talking about Season 11, Episode 4, Baby, which was a hot topic for us yesterday, or yesterday. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm a time traveler as well.
Wow.
Last
Jesus.
week.
I'm just going to go out and say it now. I was fucking wrong. Okay? and you know what? And that
At least you can own up to it.
Oh, dude, I told you guys I would. And the funny thing is like, I didn't want it to suck. Like, I did not, 100% did not want it to suck, and I'm so glad that I was proven wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Like, 100% proven wrong.
Okay.
You think otherwise, Mike? You think that he
thought
did
I wanted to
Suck our dicks! Yeah! Suck our dicks! Suck our dicks! Suck our dicks! Suck our dicks!
Is this
How
Rain Man?
many dicks did we just drop?
That's for our listeners who asked me to do drops to rub it in Ryan's face.
Wow.
Oh, I'm
Thanks,
so happy
guys.
for all those listeners now.
Yeah. Fuck you guys.
So you got my message then, Mike?
Your direct message?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Guys, we'll be getting into all of that, the breakdown, why we love the episode, in just a minute. But first, as always, some Supernatural news. Supernatural has rebounded in the ratings. Now, I'm not going to act like I know what the fuck this even means. So, Mike, can you explain what the breakdown of these numbers here on this article? Because I'm not 0.9/3. I'm not a mathematician.
No, you're not.
Okay. So basically, if you're looking here, we're looking at
This is for this episode, correct?
2.3 million viewers is what Supernatural got.
Okay.
On Wednesday, which is an improvement from the week before. Now, also, this is the same day numbers. Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna go.
Yeah, this is gonna get bumped with a positive word of mouth that like this episode is having already. You're gonna see, if not an 800,000 jump up, if not 1 million.
I would love for there to be a way to track the number of like streams or downloads or other things just to get an accurate number.
Yeah, I mean and instead of estimates
for like, oh well, between these couple of hours on the one day.
Yeah,
I'd love to just get an actual number and know how many people watched, not just for this show, but for all kinds of shows nowadays.
It would be nice because I was listening to a show. I mean, I can do rough estimates and try to and kind of figure out the general number.
Yeah, but
you have a show like Jimmy Kimmel was on some show where he was talking about his talk show and how typical late night shows are averaging 3.34 million viewers a night, which is not a lot,
right?
But that type of television, that genre of television, the late night talk format has changed so much in terms of how people watch it, just like all television shows. And he was saying that they've done estimates where after downloads and YouTube views and everything, they're having upwards of 50 million plays.
What's the time
by the
frame?
times? I don't know. Probably I would say
a week or so, or two, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I'd say 7 to 14 days.
Wow.
But typically, I don't know if he's exaggerating or what, but typically I can see with a show like Supernatural, I can see it being bumped up on same day plus 7 day, which is DVR. I can see them being bumped to maybe a little over 3.
Yeah.
Now taking in Hulu, all the people who pirate stuff, which is a lot of people. CW site, which is now really promoting like the night that it comes out. Now you can get it within 2 or 3 hours after it's aired.
Yeah.
So I could see them easily getting a number being adjusted from 2.3 to I'd say realistically 4.2, 4.3. And that's all within the next 7 to 10 days, not to mention the month. Another reason why this number could also be rebounding is not just because, everyone's like, it's because this was a great episode. I'm like, people don't know it's going to be a great episode.
The night of, yeah.
Yeah, the night of. And I think what it is also is you got to remember Netflix was late on releasing season 10.
Yep.
So there could be people who were just behind who have now had about a month to now completely binge watch the season 10 and now they're just now trying to catch up and watching the current season, which I know I do that with shows.
Yeah, I think everyone's guilty of that.
Yeah, I just did that with Gotham.
I did that with Breaking Bad. I watched the whole thing before the very final section of season 5 came out.
Yeah. So, and then of course, Twitter numbers are up as well. People were also top 5 of the, Twitter does their Nielsen ratings as well of how much, impressions and original
trending, right? Yeah.
Original tweets, original authors, stuff like that. And we were number 4 out of between the GOP debate, American Horror Story. Arrow was number 3.
Really?
And Supernatural was number 4.
Oh.
And I stand by the fact I like Arrow, but the only reason why I think Arrow is even beating out Supernatural at this point is for one reason. It's because it has
Oliver gets shirtless.
So stupid. It has the benefit of having such a rich universe from Flash now. Like you're having people automatically watching Flash, and they're flooding over to the next show.
It's 2 shows combined, leading into a third.
Right.
It's only been around for a couple of years.
Right.
This other show, Supernatural, is over a decade. If you haven't watched the show, are you going to jump in on a 10-year-old bandwagon, or are you going to go to Netflix for a couple weekends?
Yeah, Netflix and chill.
Some serious weekends.
Netflix and
weekends.
chill.
Yeah, Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill with yourself. You can pause Netflix so you can do other things real quick. And
chill? You mean chill with yourself?
Yeah.
At that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you can pause it.
I don't think we should let Ryan talk for the first segment just because he effed up so bad.
What are you talking about?
Because you were wrong.
You're right. I was wrong, and I said suck our dick. That's so stupid.
Suck our dick.
Dude, I said it when I on the show last show. I said if I'm wrong.
To be fair, you did send me a message. As soon as you watched the episode, you sent me a message like, "Yeah, I'm going to take the bullet for this one, guys." I'm okay. I'll admit it.
Yeah,
even last show, I said that if it was, I would admit it. I have no problem.
Oh, we're not saying
it.
you're not admitting it. We're still just giving you shit anyway.
Well, whatever, dude. Yeah, that's why I still think Plucky's is a great episode.
Oh, you son of a bitch! I'm amazed you remembered.
Yeah. Oh, I know you hate that episode. I saved that in the back of my brain.
Oh, anyway. Moving on to the next topic, guys. EW. We have an article here from Entertainment Weekly talking about how Supernatural, after a decade, is still on top of its game. They say, quote, when a show is called Supernatural, it obviously has a lot of freedom in terms of subject matter. And over the last 11 seasons, Supernatural has lived up to its title, dealing with fables, fairy tales, folk stories, mythologies from all over the world, religious texts, and everything in between. You can think of a creature, odds are this show has done some variation of it.
Probably pretty true.
I mean, at this point, I'm amazed if they come up with anything. If there is a new creature at all, I'm like, what is... I almost Google it right away just to know where they got that from.
Right. Like where they ninja'd that out of.
Because I would have thought by like season 7, we had seen it all.
Yeah. I mean, at some point you have to... you have to start hybriding...
hybriding creatures.
Yeah, hybriding creatures because you've used them all up.
Yeah. They say in Baby, the show decided to focus on the Impala that has been around since the pilot. The entire hour was told from the car's perspective, period. In other words, if Sam and Dean got out of the car, the camera didn't follow them. I really, really liked that element of this episode, and we'll get into that in our discussion. But was anybody else? I guarantee Mike was a fan of that.
Absolutely. And, the headline of the article itself, 11 seasons in, the show produces one of its strongest hours ever. And that's something that I just never would have thought of, to use it from the perspective of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And when you're 11 years in, you've got to be, most of those writers have been there since day one. You're probably not, you can't be an autopilot because then you'd have no fan base. So these writers are probably constantly writing down ideas constantly throughout the day. They probably don't take breaks because anytime something enters your head, you want to write it down because you're grasping. This isn't year 1. This isn't year 2. You have to think of new ways to make the show interesting and stay true to the roots of the show. And I thought this was a very smart and intelligent way to propel the story and be different. Give us some visual eye candy, because that's what this episode was eye candy. So it's smart. And that's what the headline, this is why this article, grabbed me firmly and made me read the article, was the fact that it was exactly because of the fact that it was one of the strongest hours.
And I say this all the time, I'm not like you guys. I'm not, fan. I'm not a film guy. I'm not a,
right.
I enjoy
I'm not a smart man.
I'm definitely not a smart man either. But there's a couple shots that I thought they could have placed the camera in maybe just a touch different place on the car. I'm not saying like it was bad. Okay. I'll explain. And I'll explain it real quick. There was a shot where Dean walks up to investigate the body, and it's shot from the back seat of the car. I wanted to see the body.
Let's save that for the show.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Remember that.
I will. No, that's fine. I don't need to take note on that.
No, but I mean, this article basically goes on to talk about how, despite decades, they still surprised us not only with camera angles, but the strength of the writing, saying that about 80% of it is brother bonding. Quote: "There's no wonder why it's gotten such strong response. This is at its best. This show is at its best when Sam and Dean are simply being brothers. Although a crazy scenario always helps." Again, we'll get kind of into that in our discussion, but I agree with Mike, and I agree with this writer. There was, apparently a large amount of the fan base. I have yet to see negative response.
Well, I think too, you have to remember this episode was about 80% brother bonding, which I don't know about you guys, but as a Supernatural fan, that's what you signed up for in season 1. So
that's what you keep coming back for,
right? And for them to do that, that's what made this episode be that good.
Yeah.
Yep. I think with that, just because of how much this stuff is just going to lead into the discussion, Mike, you want to just...
Yeah, we can go to break.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into our probably way too long discussion about Season 11, Episode 4, Baby, in just a minute.
The Rain Man Show.
A man wearing a Mickey Mouse costume was arrested in Times Square this past week after he allegedly harassed a child and his father for money for a photo that they never took. That Esteban grabbed the child, then demanded a tip anyway. He was allegedly screaming,
"Come here, you little shit!"
quote unquote, $5 for photos.
Wait, what was his price? What was he charging?
$5.
That's a lot of money. I gotta pay for my crack habit. Come here, you little shit. I gotta pay I gotta get some meth.
$5.
It's only $5, and I can then go to the prostitute's house and get my wee-wee sucked. Oh, my dough piece. Give me that money, you little shit. And your father, too.
For more Rain Man, visit RainManShow.com.
All right, so the Rain Man digital app is now available for iPhones and Android phones. You can now listen to all of our live uncensored broadcasts directly from the app. Additionally, you're going to have access to our entire on-demand library. And plus, you'll have access to all of our wide variety of programming, from Supernatural to Crossroads to Star Wars From the Back to Tank, and our movie review show, Critique Revolve. So head over to your app store or Google Play and search Rain Man Digital. Hey, Supernatural the Crossroads listeners. Over the past year, our show has grown, and it's all because of you. But in order for us to continue to grow, so that we can keep bringing you high-quality content and interviews, be sure to visit our advertisers, iHome, Amazon, Adam and Eve, Bookburst, and Hotel Watchdog. Hey, everybody does online shopping nowadays, so when you're buying items and you're thinking about purchasing items, remember some ads that you might have heard on the show. The Amazon links are the easiest way to help our show. Whenever you want to buy something, many people purchase things through Amazon these days. Go to our site, click through our links, and then continue to shop. That at least will also help and aid our show and help it to grow. And thank you for listening. Previously on Supernatural: The Crossroads.
One of the things that threw me, but I was also laughing, and it was just kind of awkward because of the whole setup, was the angel and the demon at the bar. I kind of was like, okay, demonized, fair enough, that's subtle. This other guy whips out a knife sword, and everyone's like, oh yeah, it's a Friday.
That's right.
What could happen? You know,
well, it's the Halloween.
It felt like a Tinder setup. They're like, it looks like the...
Whoa. Wait, hold on.
Because...
Hold on, Thomas.
Jesus Christ.
How many Tinder setups have you been on where a dude whips out a knife?
Good one.
I'm just curious.
No, the fact that you're at a bar and you're like, is that the person? And you're looking, and they like said they'd wear the red dress. He's got the black eyes. The other one's got the knife. It felt like a date. The whole thing felt like a date setup to me. It did. And I couldn't shake that feeling. You know, regardless of how they wanted to play that, I'm just like, this is weird. Like, just the setup was so awkward. That they have a drink together.
I'm crying right now.
Oh, man. It did.
And also, can angels taste drinks?
Why couldn't they?
Because the peanut butter and jelly was molecules.
Okay, they can't taste it, but it may have an effect.
Maybe it has an effect on the vessel.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But that was an interesting scene, not just because it was funny, but them, both angels and
demons. Who draws the crowd and plays so loud, baby? It's the guitar man. Who's gonna steal the show? You know, baby, it's the guitar man.
Welcome back to Supernatural: The Crossroads. Now we're going to get into the discussion of Season 11, Episode 4, Baby. This one was directed by Thomas J. Wright and written by Robbie Thompson. Ryan, do you have the synopsis for us?
Yes, this might be the best synopsis of any synopsis on any show that we've done because it's short, it's to the point. Seen from the perspective of the Impala, Sam and Dean go on the hunt for what turns out to be a rare type of vampiric ghoul. And that is it. That is the synopsis. For the love of God, please always write them like that. Whoever wrote this synopsis.
Now, this one, guys, like I think Mike might have mentioned it earlier, either in the recording or before we started talking, but the opening shot of the teaser, the then of Supernatural, showing the Season 5 finale car narration by Chuck, absolutely loved that. It brought it cool. Right back to Kripke's, which is something that Carver's done. We've talked about it. We feel like he's done very well. Keeps linking it back to old things while introducing new elements. And one of the, I mean, if you go way back to our hiatus episode when I talked about this one, and Mike, this I think was your favorite as well, the Season 5 finale. Was that your favorite episode?
It's one of my, I think it was.
It was in there, yeah. The discussion about how the brothers lived basically in this car. You have those shots of the army man in the door. You have the Legos in the vents. Thank you, Ryan. You know, the carvings of their initials into the back. And then Dean just his ass kicked, which I liked this opening because not only did it harken back to the old Kripke era of Supernatural and all the things that, like Ryan, you said in the last segment, that, you know, we love them bonding. We come to the show for the brothers' relationship.
Right.
Not only does it have that, but instead of some of the, like we've had before, the cheesier, oh, someone gets stabbed and blood hits the wall kind of thing. It was just very dark. There's blood on the wall. You know, he's unconscious. Things are clearly messed up. The windshield shot out. I like that. And that kind of feels like it fits what Season 11 has done so far as well with that darker tone. Episode 2, when the rabbit is just roaming the streets.
Right. Like
some kind of Silent Hill enemy.
It was creepy.
Just I like the creepy, unsettling feeling we had right from the beginning.
Well, it was cool because they started. It's straight off the bat foreshadowing. So you know, obviously something crazy is going to happen in the episode, but you're not quite sure what at that point. And that shot was cool the way they did it. You know, like you said, showing all the stuff that we've come to know about the car, and then kind of reminding us of it. Because
for those who have been with it for a decade,
right? It's a good. I don't want to use the word Easter egg because it's not really Easter egg, but it's a good tease for everything that the car's been through with the brothers for the episode.
And right from the beginning, we got what Mike and I especially wanted was the camera is in the car from the get-go. We see them washing the car, talking about, and that was the thing that we had wanted. We had said that we didn't want the car to be some kind of character with some voice or third, person, as if it was one of like the Dog Dean Afternoon, where it's got a mind of its own, and if they magic spell, it can talk.
It was more, they promoted it as the car being a character, and I think a lot of people ran with it thinking, oh, it's going to talk,
it's
or it's going to do this.
Literally a character.
But it was a character in the sense that it was a fly on the wall, and we saw everything from the perspective of the Impala, of this vehicle. And it kind of just gave you a sense of nostalgia that washed over you as you were watching this episode, realizing that this car has watched them go through these things for the past 11 years of their life and before when they were kids.
Right.
And that's why they made it a point, which I like that when they said, this is our home, which we're going to delve that a lot more in a minute. But this is our home because the car, like you mentioned, all those little things that made that car their vehicle, their family home, in a sense, with the army guy in the little ashtray, all their initials carved, all those things is what makes things a home.
That's their own little, look how tall they are at this age, marked on the door jamb.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did think it ended up being, and I'm going to break down those camera angles for some of the listeners that really wanted us to talk about them. But yeah, even the camera choice. I mean, the way you start off with this episode when they're washing the car. Yeah. They're washing the car. Now, that is symbolism for a lot of things. Number one, Carver and the writers have said from day one for this season that this season is to be about bringing the brothers back together. Okay. Getting rid of the baggage and starting new, starting fresh, getting them to be in the right place that they need to be as brothers, like what we saw in earlier seasons.
Seasons 4 and 5.
Right.
Particularly.
Now, that was symbolic for washing away all the crud. It's a murky, soapy window.
Yeah.
You can't see anything. You hear them talking, and then they start wiping away, and you see them. That's such a good way to start it, man. I got nerd filmmaker chills, dude, when I saw that, because I immediately saw the symbolism.
You got a film boner?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's so smart. And there's so many elements in this episode that were so intelligent and how they did the editorial transitions, the camera choices, like editing cuts, keeping like it feels like it's an ongoing
We're not the same
story.
Two angles. That's the one thing that I loved, was that despite the fact that we do return to some angles that were in this episode or that have been in multiple scenes with the car from day one, it never got stagnant.
Yeah.
It didn't go back to, we're back at this shot. There's only three setups. It always felt like they had a unique way to show you what was happening or not show you what was happening.
Well, they did a good, they did a good job of, like you said, not using the same angle twice.
Right.
And I think the only thing, there was just one angle that I just didn't like personally. It doesn't mean it wasn't a good angle. It was just when Dean is investigating the body. There's a dead body, or there's a body in front of the car.
When he was out in the woods and he was looking, okay, that's this crime scene where it happened, quote.
And the shot was from the back of the car.
I love that shot.
It was cool, but I want to see what he's looking at too.
See, for me, that added to the fact that we didn't see what he was looking at. It felt like you were were in the car, or as the car even. You're like, what? But I'm waiting.
But you know what? Ryan's a good voice for the mainstream audience.
That's fair.
And this is why there was a big chance that they weren't going to do an episode like this. Because most people want to see everything. But and that's the difference between television and cinema. A lot of these camera angles weren't in your face GoPro bullshit shots that a lot of TVs, we're going to do a cool camera angle, it's going to be a GoPro. No, these shots weren't purposely looking like a GoPro. This is a POV shot. These were just well-chosen shots.
I know about POV.
A lot of these shots were more cinematic than anything.
They're thought out.
These are the types of things you see in movies a lot. And there's two differences. In movies, you don't need the amount of coverage. And coverage, for those who don't know, coverage is medium shots, close-ups, establishing shots, wide shots. That's your coverage. TV is a certain type of art form that it's just, you don't reinvent the wheel. There's a certain set of parameters that you do.
Right.
in mainstream television. And when I mean that, I mean network television. Okay, NBC, CBS.
We're not talking
ABC,
Game of Thrones.
Right. Right.
That's different.
There's a traditional set of shots you have to do for mainstream digestion. And that's the coverage shots. You got the medium shots, you got the establishing shot, like Ryan wants to see. He wants to see what they're seeing.
Yeah.
But when you go back and analyze a movie, a lot of times the movies don't do that. A lot of times movies will not do those things. Won't do the planned coverage shots.
Well, it's honestly it's like the same thing in and I'll use Seven. At the very end, they don't show you what's in the box, and it's leave it up to your interpretation. And I'm okay with that. That's the thing. Like, you're right, Mike. This episode felt a lot like a film, like a movie. It didn't feel like a TV show where they said, "Oh, here's that thing he's looking at. Here's the next thing he's looking at."
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. And I'm not bashing. The shot
I actually understand where you're coming from.
I just think sometimes
it's just a different. It's just different taste.
It's
just different taste.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm kind of with you too on that, Thomas. Where it's like I like that they kind of left it up to your interpretation. Like, what is he seeing? And it's an imagination thing, and a lot of times, imagination can make people even more scared or creeped out.
Well, just look at. Okay, I'll give you an example where not seeing worked better. Was the whole Guy Ritchie-esque scene where he's trying to kill this vampire and he can't, and he's aiming.
That was awesome.
I mean, that's straight from a Guy Ritchie Tarantino playbook, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you don't see, now imagine if you saw that. It would not be nearly as
that scene
funny.
was cool.
No,
it was cool.
It wouldn't. The humor wouldn't be there. We've seen how many decapitations,
right?
Well,
and silver bullet shots. The fact that it is also not dead added to that, which comes
and
to the writing.
You hear it.
You hear the whole thing.
Not only
I was dying during that scene.
Not only that, but you have Cass on the phone the whole freaking time.
Yeah.
That was the best part for me. This is all going on, and Cass is just wheeling off all this nonsense.
And that was probably my favorite element about this episode. Not just the camera work, which was outstanding, but the writing. And when we talked about this last week, where when you limit the amount of the shots you can do, when you limit where you are and the things you can show, your dialogue has to be that much sharper, tighter.
You're forced to write.
To be better in so many ways. And that's what I loved about this one. They never left, they never cut away to Cass is in the bunker.
Right.
And here's me looking at Netflix, messing around with it. It was just him on speakerphone. And I love that because not only did it enhance the immersion that you were with them in the car.
Yeah.
And you were with them on the road. They took you on the road trip in that element. But also, like you said, Ryan, it adds to the humor because Cass has to say something that's worth listening to if you're not going to see him.
Right.
And it was so good. It was delivered. The idea behind it and how to keep everything in there. Because it wouldn't be as good either if Castiel's voice wasn't on speakerphone during the fight.
Yeah.
It
had to be.
Yeah. Clueless Castiel. So true to his character.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't even have to be there.
He had some of the best lines of his character, I think, in this episode. Just so I have no idea what orange and black have, why they're mixing it in any interesting way, or what's Netflix.
Yeah,
just
it was good. Although, didn't Metatron implant him?
I was
with
going to say, despite the fact that he knows all pop culture, he still doesn't know Netflix.
Unless maybe Metatron didn't know of pop culture.
Yeah, maybe he only went up to a certain date.
Didn't know of Netflix.
Metatron knew nothing about Netflix and chill. Okay?
He's not Netflix and chilling with anyone except himself.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. I mean, if you want to guaranteed see something cool and jack off, I mean, might as well do Netflix and chill.
Yeah, too bad Hannah died. I mean, Castiel can start doing Netflix and chill.
Hey, so Sam and Dean are out of the house. If you wanted Netflix and chill, just hang out or something.
Or,
so creepy.
Hit me up.
That whole lingo is just. It's so creepy. Netflix and chill.
Do you really get creeped out by that?
It's creepy sounding. Just because the connotations that go with it are like, hey, you want to... Okay, dude, imagine if a guy said that, hey, you want to Netflix and chill.
Well, if a guy said that, I'd be flattered, but I'd have to turn him down.
So let's do it. Now if this was years ago, now the connotations are there is what it means. If you say that, it just sounds creepy.
Wait a second. We're close, similar in age, Mike.
600.
You would ask a chick, hey, you want to come over and watch a movie?
I'm like, do you want to watch Netflix or something?
No, like when
in her head,
when you were 16 or 17 or like 18, hey, you want to come over and watch a movie?
Sure.
That meant, hey, you want to come over and fool around? It's the same thing.
I wanted to watch a movie.
Oh, you lying son.
I'm being serious. I'm like,
Mike is the guy that's like, no. So in this scene, the camera.
Oh God,
I was.
She's
that
like,
guy.
her like blouse is unbuttoned like all the way, and he's like, in this scene.
No, look at the camera shots are chosen quite well here. Like, listen. I had plenty of sex. I said, but there was a time and place, and watching a good movie was not the time and place.
Bitch, shut up. This is Schindler's List.
Yeah.
This is a very important scene right here.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Listen, after the movie, when the credits roll, fine.
You're like that one of those Disney videos. Keep your hands and legs to yourself until the movie is over.
Keep it in your pants.
Wow. Oh, wait. What?
Now, going back to the camera work with this one, and what was your guys' favorite scene? Was it the fighting one, the Guy Ritchie setup on that?
I don't know. Let me think. Hold on.
Because for me, my favorite, car element of the car scene, like while the fight was great, that one especially, with staying in the car rather than moving around and dynamic like the other fights are at the end. My favorite scene was just Sam waking up from his dream vision and them talking in the car. Not just because of the writing there, but it showed you for the first time, I think, them like driving off to the side, like to a rest stop and sleeping in the car. Something that Chuck had talked about, and we had kind of assumed as fans up until season 5's finale. I liked seeing that. I liked how, it did feel like a home the most right there. Somewhere they sleep, he's got his computer, he's doing his thing, there's a fridge, essentially, and the whole, night jerk, night bitch. It felt very home-esque.
Well, it was needed after all these years. I mean, it kind of back you up what we just said. I mean, Sam and Dean have said it, going through the motions. They've said that several times throughout the last couple seasons. Oh, I feel like we're just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what their characters, not that I had a problem with the way characters were being developed for the last couple years, but at some point, they were going through the motions. They were saying, how can we kill the bad guy? We're going to argue about it. We're going to fight. And that's that. And they keep going to the motions.
There was no time to breathe.
They went through the needed motions in order to survive. And this was a way for the writers to show them and to let the audience kind of take a break and to see some much needed development on the brothers as to where they are today. And a lot of times people think, well, we're 11 years in. Do we really need to see development on characters?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. You need a reminder.
You do.
Well, no one's ever done developing as a human. Are you the same person you were 10 years ago?
Right. Like, no.
No. Are you going to be the same person 10 years from now? No.
I hope so.
And the thing is that a lot of television shows fall victim to their own seasonal success, meaning let's say you have a great show. You're, great development for the first 2 or 3 years, and then you're now in season 6, season 7, and a lot of times writers will stop giving development on the protagonist.
Because they feel like they finished it.
Yeah. Hey, look, we know the protagonist. Let's introduce a new character. Okay, now let's give some scenario for these new characters to act with this guy. Meanwhile, we're going to get to know this guy, and these guys are going to react. Our protagonists are now just reactionary.
Yeah.
And what they've done is... And I think it's vital, and I think that's what they've done. We've seen this now, particularly with this episode. This was the icing on the cake for me, was they're slowing down, they're taking a step back and showing the reflection of the brothers over the course of this last decade, and they're getting back to showing us them. Yeah. And we needed to see them be them and not the hunters necessarily. And just having them sit there and relax and talk and chat. It was very real to their characters from earlier seasons.
Yep.
And it gave us reprieve and allowed us to see some development and where their mental state is at. Because they are, people are people, and I do agree people change to a degree because of life experiences.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see where they're at mentally. And the fact that Sam always, to this day, goes back and forth with, do you ever think of anything else besides this? Do you ever think of a normal life? And that's, and that's something he's always kind of hinted at.
That's why he left, quote, the family business before season 1.
It's just good to see them interact. And like you said, Mike, relax, because the last 2 seasons, we've seen them just nonstop.
It's had to be nonstop.
And it's nice to finally get back. And the jokes that they were throwing back and forth are season 1 through 5. I mean that, and it's good to see that. And it honestly,
and it didn't feel forced.
No, and it's a reminder of why we fell in love with the show in the first place. Their witty banter back and forth with each other, the way they treat each other. Seeing that dynamic back in the show is a good. It's good to see that, even though, like you said, sometimes people will say, well, do we need that? Do we need to see that again?
You always do.
Yes, absolutely, because that's what made you love this show in the first place.
Well, and also it feeds into what Mike said. If you don't do that, your protagonist becomes reactionary, to where you're watching a show not for the main character, not for what their goals and dreams and motivations are anymore, but you're watching it season 6, 7 on whatever show, and they're like, oh, look, we've added all this new stuff. You're like, well, I don't care about the new stuff. If I cared about the new stuff that much, and that would have been a show I started watching at that point. I joined this train a long time ago.
Right.
And I honestly could have been, I would have probably preferred it had it not been an actual monster. Had it been just some kind of, well, yeah, no, the guy just died. And the whole episode was just those brotherly moments.
Yeah.
In the car, talking late at night by themselves and kind of healing that relationship that has been stretched, to the ends of the earth.
I do want to point. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, it's all right. As long as you're staying on the same topic.
It's not. Go ahead.
Okay. To follow up what you just said, Thomas, also, and what you started, Ryan, was they couldn't have picked a better scenario for this story, because it was a personal approach, because it was about the brothers' bond and getting back to the basics and their relationship. It made, by means of this episode and the gimmick they used of all camera angles having to be in this vehicle, it made so much more sense. Going back to the camera shots, even the selected camera shots during their conversations made it feel more personal and gave us more of an emotional impact because of those chosen shots. And a lot of that's subconscious. So the everyday viewer isn't going to get why they do certain things, but certain shots create certain emotions.
That overhead shot with them in the car when they're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just, man, everything was, and this is why for this particular story, and I think when the writers sat down, they're like, well, how can we tell this personal story in a way that we haven't done it before? I guarantee that's how the conversation started.
It had to.
And then they started thinking of scenarios. Well, let's make it more personal. Well, how do we make it more personal? Well, let's get creative with the shots. Okay, let's instill emotions through subconscious means. And we all know the writers do subtext, right? So this isn't something new to them. Okay, so let's do something that can invoke some subconscious feelings, some subconscious emotions. And I think that's where they went with that, because these shots aided in the personal touch and the personal feeling.
And going back a little bit to what you had said, Mike, the fact that we still saw the brothers not only as them kind of healing the relationship and where they are now, or who they were, we had known this whole time, but where they are now, I loved. Again, it comes back to the dialogue and the writing. Sam wanting that family dynamic, and Dean still kind of like all the way back to season 1. It's like, oh, don't need it. Our life sucks. It's not worth it, kind of thing. But then when they're there talking to each other at night, he's got the dream about dad and having a normal life, driving a car at 16, getting a learner's permit in a lame-ass way.
I think Dean is just tough guy mentality, and
absolutely.
I think he wants the same thing as Sam.
We know that.
Yeah, and I think he wants the same thing as Sam, but the same reason why he left Lisa is not to cause them harm. It's superhero, it's Spider-Man syndrome.
Yeah. It is Spider-Man, but it's also it's Spider-Man syndrome, but it's also real. It's being realistic. About it, and that's the thing. Like, you have to. Yes, Spider-Man syndrome is, hey, I can't be in love with you because supervillain might come and kill you someday, and it would hurt me so much. But at the same time, with Dean, he's being realistic. He's like, look, I can't have these things.
He's tried it, and in his mind, it's not
going to work.
Going to work. But I almost wish they had brought up Ben and Lisa.
So do I.
That would have been
cool,
amazing. Just for that little bit, because it's already hitting Kripke's era in season 5, and we know where they're going. Well, we don't know where they're going, but they're advancing their characters. Ben and Lisa has always felt like the one thing, the elephant in the room when it comes to Dean as a person.
Right.
Because since the last time they appeared, he said, if you ever talk about them, I'll kill you, kind of thing. This feels like the time that they could have talked about it.
Yeah.
And I liked that. That was the car, them talking, was my favorite scene. It shows how their goals and aspirations are different and moving forward, yet they've never really changed.
Yeah.
They're better at what they do, and they're older and wiser, but they're also still the exact same people with the same dreams.
You grow, you mature, you learn. It doesn't mean you change at your core. You don't change at your core. Yeah.
And I think that was a really well done element by the writers, because it's something that, anybody with a brother or sister or close family friend or anything like that has had a late night talk about that, where you want to go, what you want out of life,
right?
And it just felt right in so many ways, not only as a fan, but as from a writing standpoint, that these characters would have this kind of conversation based on the events that had happened to them beforehand and at this moment. And like you said, Mike, it feels real. And I love that element about this one.
Can we just for a moment talk about how long they drove the car with blood all over the side of the window? Like, can we just talk about that? Can we talk about that? Because I don't know about you guys, but if I hit someone or had blood on the side of my car,
right?
Was it that long though? It was maybe.
Was it that long?
I mean, okay.
The entire right window is covered in blood.
It's not so much how long it was; is the fact that he rolls up to a gas station. He's like, "Yeah, that's normal."
What? Dude, there's like a quart of blood on the side of the car. Like
a quart.
I mean, come on.
Not quite a gallon.
But yeah, more than a cup. Yeah, more than a cup. But I'm sorry, but that is a lot of blood on the side of the car, and I feel like that might have been. It would have been prudent, and even at the end of the episode, they drive off. It's still on the car.
Yeah.
It
just take time to clean that off. No.
Yeah. Why would we?
Just drive.
Why would we want to get pulled over by cops for having blood all over our car? Now, I just thought that was funny.
Yeah. Besides just the brother element, this episode had a ton of new lore / touches on future events that I think are going to be far more impactful. Like we'll see way down the line that it all comes back to this, kind of like how Kripke had it, where you didn't think this one element in this one episode may have meant that much, but much later you learn, holy shit, that it was right in front of our face. How do we not see that? Sam's dream / vision. Now, I've been on the internet with this stuff since I've watched it, so I have a couple things that I'm sadly did not think of myself. I want to take credit for, but I can't. Because my immediate thought, and you guys tell me what you thought, my immediate thought is this is God talking to him, or someone.
I thought it was Lucifer.
See, that's what the internet said, and I didn't even think of that.
It's that line.
I was so bonered up for it to be God.
It was Lucifer, the line that he said. I can never fool you. Yeah. Do you remember he tried to fool him? He says that when he first... God damn, and that's why I was like, fuck, how did I remember that? But also, he remember in season 7 when he wasn't Lucifer, when it was all in his head. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was all him going insane. Like,
and he's like, it's not real.
Yeah, so that's another thing made me think. I'm like, well, I remember Lucifer trying to trick him out. Like, I'm, this. I'm here, Sammy. I'm here, Sammy.
You never left. This is real,
right?
And Sam's like, no.
So I'm wondering if it's even if it is a dream, if it's just subconscious again, or what is it? Because that made me feel like, okay, it's Lucifer. But then I started thinking about, like, wait a second, when he was trying to fool him all the time and thinking he was around, it wasn't really Lucifer. It was all in his head.
Right.
So it just threw me a loop. I was confused as to who it could possibly be.
I wanted it to be God so bad, just because the touches of the then segment where he's praying and how he finally tells Dean that he had prayed,
and the voiceover of Chuck just
the 200th episode, Chuck shows up, like all the elements saying that God's gonna have to make some play, or if he's going to ever this season, this enemy is the time. I wanted that to happen so bad, but the Lucifer one does make more sense thinking about it, because we know that that hell could hear them screaming through the cage.
Right.
We know that if you think all the way back to where Azazel, Yellow Eyes, killed all the nuns to commune with Lucifer, there is a way to talk through the cage despite being trapped in there. The one thing that makes me think that it might still be God is the vision he had in the second episode of the cage, because again, I still stand by that's God. Like, you need these two. They're the only two that are going to be able to help you with this in some way. But Lucifer does make sense with the whole I never could fool you, because Lucifer makes so much sense, because that's how he got his first vessel, Nick. He was his wife and the dead baby and that whole fuck with his head thing. Lucifer's why I love the character in Supernatural is always the promise of what you really want. He even says, Dad told me exactly what I want to hear. And Dean's like, oh, that's not him.
Yeah, and that's what Lucifer does.
But that's what Lucifer would have done. He would have said, I'm proud of you, Sam, and let's have a beer, kid, kind of thing like that. So it does make more sense. I do wish it was God, but Lucifer is pretty much just as exciting to us. And if that cage image that we've seen from Instagram is real.
What image are you talking about? That
one that was on some other magic show that was on the other stage. Yeah. Bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, man. That never happened.
Pray caller.
Yeah.
No, to me, it makes more sense. I want it to be God just because I love that character that we've never met.
Yeah.
But Lucifer would make sense because the fact that, like what you just said, obviously the alarms are going off. They found a way to be heard through the cage. Maybe he found a way to, talk through the cage and actually communicate because he does have some type of connection with Sam.
And the darkness.
Yeah. And obviously, they have the same purpose and goal. They don't want the darkness out. I would think even Lucifer doesn't want it.
Well, because what would be the point?
Right.
Because in season 5, he says...
I mean, think about the personal touch as well. Now that Lucifer has been, his fangs have been taken out a bit with the whole Mark of Cain a little bit, that he was turned, much like how we saw Dean being turned. Right. He was poisoned in a sense.
Right.
So he has a direct personal fight with this.
He has a direct connection to the darkness. He also his whole thing before was that he hated humans and what they did to the planet, and he loved what God had done. He loved Earth and all those things. He just saw us as a parasite. Well, if the darkness is going to remake the world in its version of what's better, that's got to affront him too, because Lucifer still cares about his quote father, God.
Right.
He still wanted to be loved. That, like, Crowley, I just want to be loved kind of thing.
God, don't play that drop.
It's still the same element. So I would imagine he'd be on their side.
What did Crowley say?
Nothing.
I just want to be loved.
I just want to be loved.
Yeah, there it is. And we've seen through the last episode and this one that everyone's kind of like gearing up to go against the darkness. Angels and demons are working together potentially, or at least maybe there's a setup for that.
Well, I think they set that up in this episode. I mean,
and I was going to say, in this one, the monsters are afraid.
That was the thing that kind of that threw me is this guy. I mean, this vampire ghoul that we see it's not a high level. That's not a high level monster. Okay, it's not a vampire. It's not a werewolf. It's a hybrid, I guess, if you want to call it that. And he knows about the darkness.
What was it? Jefferson Starship? Was that the ones that Eve made?
Yeah.
Or like just amalgamation?
So it's interesting. It's interesting that a villain or a monster
kind
of
a B level monster
would know about the darkness.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I liked that touch because it stayed true to the universe that Gamble created with the alphas,
right,
and with Eve, and showed how everyone's a lot more connected than we originally thought. They're all spawns from Eve, and Eve has been around for we don't know how long. We know that Eve was around the same time as the Leviathans
because they knew who she was and called her a whore.
Right. Well, did you know that there was a rumor going around that she's actually a Leviathan? Because they mentioned, I forgot, you can wiki it. There was something pertaining to the fact that they were related. And then they said, my mother, were related. It had to do with the black alpha vampire dude. He said some comment before. Remember when him and the Mexican dude were fighting?
Yes.
Okay, according to the Supernatural Wiki, under Eve, under season 7, episode 22, There Will Be Blood, it says, Eve is mentioned by the alpha vampire when he tells Edgar that we come from you and that he is a son of Eve, heavily implicating that Eve was related to or possibly one of the Leviathans herself. Edgar, however, dismisses their connection, stating that the alpha is a mere mutt and that Eve was a whore.
Maybe she, like the way
some loose connection.
Well, maybe the way that people back in the day looked at, bastard children.
Yeah.
You're nothing. You're a bastard.
Or maybe she was
your mom's a whore. Same kind of thing, that she went off and tried to do her own thing compared to the rest of them.
Yeah. So maybe she was a Leviathan. I mean,
maybe.
I mean, didn't she bleed black?
I don't
she died. Remember when they died?
She had like I'm gonna look it up. She had some like black, gray, like water look to her. Not as like thick a ink like goop that the Leviathans did, but again, the difference was she could be killed with the Phoenix Ash.
Right. Well, she was also something different. She was probably something. I'm wondering if they're like loosely connected, like a second cousin type thing.
Something like that.
Hers was like a grayish. I'm looking at it right now. It was like a grayish, watery substance.
paced.
So,
yeah, sort of.
Getting back to the point that I was saying was the fact that I'm wondering if just because it would make sense though, because what Gamble did with the monsters and the hierarchy and how they operated, it changed the known universe as we knew it as to being a little bit more close and a little more connected. And as we see with the darkness is very much connected. God is very much connected outside of biblical lore. As we learn, there's a lot more to the cosmos than just the biblical belief structure.
Even Death went on to say that.
Yeah. So now that the universe is much bigger, it would kind of make sense that the world of the monsters are aware of any changes within the cosmos or any tilt in power in terms of the monster world. It would make sense. And it kind of solidifies our idea of when we were talking about how the angel and the demon might end up working together.
Well, I think they've kind of, between that and saying that Michael and Lucifer and the archangels were the ones that defeated her in the beginning, and the fact that there is no God at the moment, I think we're going to have some kind of all-out, all of us versus the one threat. But my question is, what role will Dean play in that? Will he be some sort of protector vessel?
But
it's almost like they're setting some... Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, the thing is about that, and I agree with you, Thomas, but the problem with an all-out, everyone... that's like the ending of a show type.
Well,
event.
Man,
sadly, whether we want to admit it or not, we're getting there.
I don't want the show to end, but if the episodes keep lining up like they are, I would be okay with the season ending because they're ending on a fantastic season. If that's a big if,
that's a huge if.
If every episode continues the way these last four
we've
have
had
been.
4.
I don't want it to end, but I'm saying this is a high note.
4 solid episodes in a row.
Yeah, and if this episode ends up being the episode that everyone's been waiting for since season 5, then this could be a good way to go out on a positive high. I don't want them to, but I'm saying...
But if you're going to go... Eventually the show is going to have to go. And so if you're going to go, you might as well go out on that, original swan song idea.
Yeah. Now, there is an interview that was at the end of the show, but it would make sense to do it now. There is an interview that was done with Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki pertaining to the Monster Alliance. Okay, Jared Padalecki and Jensen talk Amara's bond with Dean and the nature of the darkness. I'm just going to skip to, and this is from the TVaddict.com interview. It says Padalecki and Ackles were also asked about the monsters who were frightened of the darkness in Baby and the fact that they're building up their forces to combat the darkness. We will see more of that. Padalecki joked that we'll see ghoul pyres at the bar with the angels and demons. Ackles went on to explain that we will continue to see unique alliances.
Interesting.
People are the kind of getting their defenses together. They're forming these alliances and saying, listen, it's not about you and me anymore. It's about us, and we're going to lose all of this if we don't join forces and man up. Those are his words. So
that's been established, I think, at this point between Angel Demon Bar.
And we haven't seen it before. We have not seen something like that before.
And at season 11, you have to do stuff that we haven't seen before, which they've done a great job so far between the rabbits and just the plague that hit a town and the silence and the darker tone of those episodes.
Well, you know what? And it just, you keep thinking the darkness, right?
Right.
Darkness is so huge. It's epic. How are we going to make this even more epic? Well, an army versus the darkness would be epic. It would be
the darkness could create its own army as well. We've seen that.
Bruce Campbell shows up.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Chainsaw.
That'd be awesome.
The original hunter.
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be dope.
He's the hunter alpha.
Dude,
there you go.
Oh, dude, if that crossed over, I'd have
that would be a crossover that I would co-sign on.
I would have a raging boner, dude, if that actually happened. That'd be amazing.
But that, going with the army thought, because the darkness has been able to create its own, whether she has complete control over them and they were coming to guard the baby,
right,
or what, we're not sure. Maybe, because clearly they were just possessed but not dead. Maybe that was a way that she would get people to come and allow her to feed. Yeah, because the souls were still in there.
That's right.
We don't know what her complete scope of powers are, but if it was some darkness army versus heaven, hell, monsters, humans, that would lead into that idea of a movie finale for the show that we had debated about episodes ago.
Though.
I don't think
nobody does.
I don't think they need to end, but at the same time, if they were going to choose a year to
it's not that we want them to, but if you're going
don't end
to
on an odd number, damn it. God.
This isn't about. Oh,
fuck
it is
story. Fuck anything else. It's about the even season DVD collection.
Even Jesus.
Now let's talk a little bit about, before we move too far away from it, Thomas, is the whole line of whatever it is. Okay, let's talk about the line that they made a point to say, which was,
well, regardless of darkness versus monsters or whatever they're going to do, Dean's made reference that says that he doesn't believe that God's going to help them in any way, with that quote again in my favorite scene from this episode. Sam hearing from, whether it's Lucifer, God, or whatever, that quote, God helps those who help themselves. And Dean knew exactly, which I was surprised by, frankly.
He plays dumb a lot of times in episodes, and he knows a lot more than he leads on to. He's older brother syndrome, likes to pick on Sam a bit, just for him being a nerd.
Saying he's such a nerd with the copper pennies and stuff.
He's the exact same way. You know what, man? That was too on the nose for it not to mean something.
Yeah.
And the fact that Dean knew it, and then he brought up Aesop, which, is a famous philosopher from, I believe, I want to say Roman or Greek days. I have a link here.
Ancient Greece.
Yeah. And, I mean, for him to actually say that name, I'm wondering if it may play some important role in the show. And the fact that they are going less biblical this season, epic. They're staying true to the biblical roots, but they're also going beyond that. To say that it wasn't even a biblical verse, like he says, not even from the Bible, and then you Google the saying, and every article about this specifically says that most people think it's a biblical quote, and yet it's not. It's from this Greek philosopher.
Well, that feels like a perfect example of how what was written down way back loses some of it in translation as time goes on. So many people today think that's a Bible quote.
Yeah.
Just like so many people think that certain things in the Bible are taken as true, but maybe that was a metaphor for what whoever wrote it all those years ago. This idea that what happened and was written down changes over time. And the Bible in Supernatural is a prime example of that. It's not that, the sword of Michael was really a physical sword. It was a vessel, aka Dean in this instance.
So,
and with the darkness being this galactic a scale, it would be a good way to introduce that the Bible's not the only source you have to go to for this.
And maybe if the father that was John Winchester, if it was in fact some type of visage of Lucifer, then maybe he's giving him some clue.
But
to do research on.
I think he has to.
It was almost like a clue, like
that was too deliberate a sentence.
It was intentional. This was such a very planned out episode. Everything was there for a reason, and it's gonna have to pay off.
And kudos to Matt Cohen for as young
John
Winchester. Yeah,
stupid, good-looking guy.
Asshole. No, it felt like when we first saw him in that flashback episode, when Dean traveled through time, it was very much a young John Winchester, not really knowing anything about hunting and any of that. This felt like he was channeling Jeffrey Dean Morgan very well to me. That he, the whole "I didn't want this for you," whether this is Lucifer or God, whoever, but the idea that they're still playing the dad.
I think he was just tired from the big con circuit that he's on.
That's why he's like, "We're gonna shoot this episode." He's like,
dancing around with the wig.
Fuck.
Yeah. I'm gonna play this one sleepy, guys. No, I thought he did a great job as John Winchester in this one. I felt like that was the transition period where he was learning about hunting.
Transitioning?
Yeah, he was in his transition phase, taking all his pills, talking to his meds.
Did he finally get the surgery or but no?
No, but kudos to him. I thought it was very well done.
Slammed for that one.
I know, right?
Well, it wasn't about Caitlyn Jenner, so we're good.
Oh god, and there it is. I thought he did a great job in this one, but I agree that pause he had before he said the phrase, and the fact that Sam then refers it to Dean, and Dean goes into it with the reference to who it is. That's way too much dialogue written out for something that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but even though it was exposition, it was done in a good way, though. I have to say that nothing felt contrived. All this lore we got, it was so natural. It just flowed so naturally.
Absolutely. Now, the question is, what does that necessarily mean? God helps those that help themselves. Is that, because the proverb, essentially, you can delve into that as a philosopher, but for supernatural, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Will that mean that God will show up when the brothers, so long as they try?
We all know that I'm not a philosophizer, but that line, it's just vague enough where, and I think it gets more power if we know who is saying it. It
will.
If we know it's God saying it, it's a little bit different. If it's Lucifer saying it, it has a completely different meaning. So it really does matter who's saying it to him. Yeah. Here's the thing. This is why I don't think it's Lucifer. And I know that the darkness is a big bad, and it makes a reason for Lucifer to call out to Sam. But if he can now finally, Sam, I love you. Sam, don't leave me. If he could call out or give him a vision or whatever, why has he waited until now? And I know the darkness is the reason, but couldn't he have done it way before?
Lucifer?
Yeah.
Well, think about breaking out of prison, okay? You always have a want to break out of prison. I'm just saying, think about the scenario. Put yourself in the scenario. You always try to find your way out of prison. You go through the motions like, okay, I'm going to try to break out of prison today, but hey, I got next week. Now, something happens at a grand scale. Let's say your son gets kidnapped or your wife is cheating on you on the DL.
Thanks.
All of a sudden, everything and all your priorities are going to come together. I'm like, we need to get out of here. We need to stop this. So it does become believable to me because of the importance. It does become believable to me that it could be Lucifer.
Into high gear.
Exactly. It does make sense to me.
And not only that, I mean, that's even in Shawshank, like he does.
I knew you were going to say
Shawshank. He takes years to do it.
Always.
But at the same time, it was really important at the end that he did it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's because the end of the movie. They got to, they got to finish the movie.
Closing in on Act 3.
Yeah,
exactly. But either way, I also think some of it had to do with the fact that the darkness was released.
Yeah.
That the Mark of Cain being removed and the darkness being released had a profound effect on all kinds of aspects in both heaven and
universe.
Hell. Who's to say that it didn't crack the foundation of the cage or allow for something different to happen down there?
Still trying to figure out what this cage is you speak of. I don't know what you're talking about.
Cannot confirm nor deny the existence.
Some PA tweeted something.
Some member of the staff.
Some PA tweeted something. I'm not sure what.
Dickhead.
Yeah. What a jerk.
Fucker. Going to demote him to executive janitorial department.
No. I think much like the Croatoan virus episode and how that ended up being Lucifer and the demon's plan, essentially, seasons later, I think this phrase, God helps those who help themselves, will come into play later. The question is, what exactly will it entail? I mean, he's intervened to save them from Lucifer's cage opening and put him on the plane. We know that.
Yeah.
And he brought Castiel back.
Well, okay. Whatever is the reverse of the darkness is talking to Sam. Remember, he said, well, what is the reverse of the darkness? Well, the reverse of darkness is the light. Who's the angel of the light? Who is the angel of light? That's Lucifer.
Lucifer, yeah.
So
who knows?
That's what I'm saying. That could be just the nerd, me and Thomas, that we do is delve. I know Ryan goes home and makes fun of us. Like these idiots. They look at every little thing and go off on it.
No, I don't make fun of you guys because I do it when it comes to comic book movies and stuff and trailers. But at the same time, I think sometimes you guys reach so fucking far on shit. You're just I know.
Especially last week, I reached so far that I predicted this episode. I really reached.
Yeah, that's the thing. So many.
You should blow yourself some more over there too.
To continue the Mike Blow fiesta.
Suck our dick! Yeah! Suck our dicks! Suck our dick!
I do have to say the difference. That's the thing is if you read all this into something, if you go that far, I love that little bit that he had the vision that it wasn't just brotherly moments, but also advancing the story in a significant way. Besides technical things that we want to get into, because I know Mike's gonna want to go camera heavy in here in a minute.
No, I just use it for my final thoughts, so I don't bore everybody.
I mean,
it's up to you guys.
Well, I mean, people wanted to talk about it, right?
All right, yeah.
One of the other elements, Castiel, in this one, we touched on it a little bit. He really was the Bobby figure in this episode. He was the guy looking up lore. He's the guy giving him shit on the phone, the one who's worried on the phone. He was much more of a caring Bobby, because Bobby would just been idiots and hung up. And, if you guys would have listened to me for 5, goddamn minutes, you would have known that you have to do all these things with the coins, rather than Castiel's like, what's orange is the new black? Oh yeah, by the way, it's this.
Yeah.
But it was nice to kind of have that, retro feel to the show again.
And it gave Castiel
something to do.
A legit...
It wasn't just he's written off, Cass is off doing some more shit.
It gave him a legit thing to do, a purpose, a legit purpose that would make sense to his character and the direction they've taken him. It makes sense.
It works. It's so much better done compared to where's Kevin? Oh, hasn't figured anything out with the tablet, so what's this week's problem?
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that always felt contrived or a convenient throwaway, and here's where he is. All right, on to the next sentence.
The worst one was in Bloodlines. Hey, we got a line on Metatron. Let's go!
Hey. This was a well thought out, and again, it comes down to how well they had to write this episode for all the pieces to fit with their limitations they put on themselves. So, which, going back to limitations, the camera work. Yeah. I mean, Mike, you have people wanting for you to delve into this, so I'm going to just turn the floor over to you for a minute.
I'm going to take a nap for about 5 minutes.
No, I'm not going to go into it. There's just certain elements that you can look at in terms of, okay, this is the type of thing that you look at when the writers are on their A game. Not only the writing plot and making sure everything fits according to plan, but also they have to write the appropriate transition shots, the appropriate cut shots, the appropriate dissolve transitions, everything so that it makes to make sure that the end product will feel like it flows all together.
Yep.
And specifically things that with the waitress's pen and the use of the valet, which is at first I was like, why this valet? And at the end, it helped propel the story.
Feel forced.
And it allowed us to leave Sam and Dean, allow time to pass besides watching another dissolve. Because if we saw another dissolve today or to afternoon or to evening or to dusk, whatever, it would have felt like, oh, we're sitting here again watching nothing. We've already seen that. So instead, they use this valet, which at face value, why are they doing this? It's a silly scene. It helps the passage of time. Gives us something to watch without leaving the car. Okay. Number 2, the girl's purse, which geniusly paid off for the penny.
Right.
So that ended up paying off. Little things like that to help the camera go, basically helping us go, the viewer, from A to B to C to D. And I say that a lot. And I say that because specifically in a shot like this, there's specific shots that have to connect, have to work together in order to feel comfortable and feel right. And, for example, with the waitress's pen as well, which we didn't get into that, but when Sam was getting plowed, or he was plowing, I should say, let us hope, and the waitress's pen, it just little things like that. You make sure the camera catches it, and it pays off in the end.
I think that bit with the waitress was probably my favorite funny bit.
And she was hot as hell.
From the episode. Dean, not only his reaction to Sam with the chick in the car, but when he gets out of the car, he kind of looks in from the side, and he's walking away, and he's ducks down to look again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
I did that. That's he felt very much like an older brother there.
Yeah. And that's something we didn't talk about very much, but I actually liked that they showed these guys aren't like monks. They never have sex anymore. You realize that.
When was the last time they
as a demon, Dean did.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's nice to see that these guys are regular dudes.
Yeah.
That do things like that. And I felt that
not with subtext. I mean, not with subtext, there's something completely different.
No, Castiel and Dean are always boning.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. always off screen, and you never see it.
Just fucking the God-given shit out of
Netflix and chill.
Yeah, well, now that Castiel knows what that is, it's going to be a total Destiel Netflix.
Hey, Dean, you want to come to my quarters?
He's going to come in his quarters.
Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
But bringing it back, I do agree with you, Mike. That bit not only made them feel like real people again in so many ways, it was so well written, because not only does it shows the difference between them, because Dean's like, I'm going to go to the bar, and Sam's like, I'm going to go to a diner, and be responsible. And yet they're still very similar, because Sam ends up with a chick in the car later. Dean's laughing about it.
Yeah.
He gives him shit. They play classic rock music, which I loved that bit again. It felt, again, very crypty, because we've had some Taylor Swift and some techno for whatever reason lately, but this was rock.
Yeah, well, we had some MIA when the girls were driving.
That made sense though, because the girls are driving the car, and we were already felt violated by them being in the car.
That's true.
Like you fucking touch one thing, and then they go off. I was pissed. I was mad.
I was like, what the hell are you doing?
But I love that bit, and it all fed into future elements too. The pin has allowed him to, undo the handcuffs. It wasn't just, oh yeah, Sam hooked up with some chick because why not?
Yeah, everything.
It fit the story, it fits the characters, and it led to the whole discussion of don't you want something more rather than just one night stands and them bonding again.
There was no throwaway. Everything was there for a reason. All the camera shots, all the little plot devices they used, everything paid off in the end, and none of it felt contrived. All of it felt natural. One of my favorite transitions I felt was at the very beginning of the episode when Dean and Sam are washing the car.
Right.
Okay, and you go from him squirting the window to the rain on the window. That's a great transition. I don't know why they don't do transitions like that even more. Like, there's no reason why you can't do stuff like that. Because I've already said that before. Like, there's certain TV shows that their whole thing is transitions. Like, I don't know if you guys ever watched Spartacus. Spartacus on Starz had some of the best thought out transitions I've ever seen in a TV show, and it does. It's an art in itself to think of appropriate transitions that feel natural and also work.
Or you can go to a cutaway animation.
Yeah,
Big Bang Theory.
So stupid.
Don't make me throw up right here, dude.
No, I agree, and that's why this episode, like Ryan said earlier, felt much more like a film than just an episode of TV. Because every shot was thought out, the dialogue was thought out, every element that was there was not a throwaway.
Well, with TV shots, the traditional coverage, like I said, the mediums, the longs, the established shots, they're there, and sometimes we take them for granted. And I think the editing department and the camera team take them for granted and say, "Hey, we got to get a shot of this, got a shot of that, got a shot of that, not a shot of that,
got a shot of that,
got a shot of that." And I think a lot of times they get a lot of things that they don't necessarily need. I'm not saying they don't plan. I think we all know that I blow the cinematography constantly for this show.
But there's a difference between we got all our coverage, basic, put this together, and
what we
crafting an experience from the perspective of the car.
And that's the key word there, crafting, because that's exactly what you have to do. When they planned this episode, that's exactly what they knew they had to do. They had to craft everything to work seamlessly together. And that's just something in TV shows as you go by, you don't focus, you don't think as much as the craft. You think more or less of how we're going to make sure this shot looks good, it's exposed, the mainstream audience can digest it. Because you look at shows like Hannibal that got canceled, I mean, that whole show is a cinematic experience. And you go in chat rooms and think people are complaining about are the camera shots. Like, I don't understand it.
Sadly, that's more often the case. And I'm not insulting people. I understand other people have their own taste, but that's my reasoning as to why. And the way Ryan opened up the show, and we always say he represents the 90% of TV viewers, and that's the reason why they normally don't do stuff like that. But then this is why this is like a special treat for those that do like things like that. That's usually saved for either the film, for feature films or the paid television arena, such as HBO or Star Cinemax.
It's a gamble. I mean, it's a gamble.
A Sarah gamble.
Not a Sarah. No, if it was a Sarah gamble, it'd be Bloodlines 2.
Oh, no. Come on, give her better credit than that.
No, that's what it would be. Look, it's a gamble for them to do an episode like this, and you're right. I'm the fanboy on the show. I mean, I'm the guy that I represent 90% of the viewers. But I did like the episode, and I do like shots like that. I like, and I don't like using the word artsy, but that's what it felt like to me. Was a very artistic way of showing this episode.
Because
it was.
It was artsy as fuck, dude. But done right.
Right,
so that the normal people who don't like that shit can enjoy it.
The difference is there, like Brian said, he likes the episode, and people thought it was a really good episode and really well done. Meanwhile, Mike and I are like blowing this thing, like, oh god, remember that one scene,
dude? If this were a chick, you guys would already have came like 14 times.
Netflix and chill.
Yeah, no,
Netflix
this would have been
chill.
there's no Netflix. This would be us just fucking.
You want to just come over and fuck?
Yeah, you're just gonna come over and fuck like 42 times.
What the hell?
That's what it would have been.
All right, we need to move on. Probably.
Yeah,
probably.
All right, guys. I think that's enough blowing of. Speaking of blowing, that's enough of that for right now.
Final thoughts.
Let's do our grading system here. Ryan, we're gonna go to you first.
I was fucking wrong. I don't know what other way to admit it. I was wrong. I
suck our dick.
Is that a way to admit that you were wrong?
You done?
A different way?
You done with that? Cool. No, every time we've gotten in a synopsis like this or an episode like this, we see there's good parts of it, and there's always, at least in my mind, sometimes, most of the time, bad stuff. Like there was nothing bad about this episode. There was nothing. I could not be more wrong in any type of assessment or speculation on this show. Like I'm going to go out. If we get 3 more seasons of Supernatural, I will never get something this wrong ever again. The episode was just shot brilliantly. I loved everything about it. I mean, even the stuff that I did, like I kind of was like irked about, and I don't even want to say didn't like, because it wasn't. I didn't like it. It still was good, and I love every aspect of it. I love that they went back to the brothers connection. That was one thing that we've been lacking, and not so much, just lacking it in general, but lacking the fact that they are brothers, and we got a nice, solid segment of them being brothers.
Yeah.
And even the scene where Sam hooks up with the chick, it's still that's a brotherly moment when he comes
high
out.
five.
Yeah, it's like that was a high five. Like, yes, way to
I
go,
thought he was in
Sammy.
the Eiffel Tower.
Dude,
I thought they were going to do Eiffel Tower.
Dean probably thought about it. He kept looking in.
Well, I mean, the Wincests were hoping it would be reverse Eiffel Tower, but whatever.
Always too far.
Don't bring it up if you don't want me to take it to that next level. Everything about this episode, it's on the top 5 level type episode is what it was.
Okay.
Immediately.
Wow.
It's an A+. I would give it a 98%. Like, unless Lucifer just popped out of nowhere, I would make it 100%. So,
all right, Mike, what about you?
Okay, I have a bunch.
Oh boy, I'm gonna take a 10-minute nap.
So stupid. All right. I'm just gonna say my grade right away. It's an A+ episode. Okay. I honestly think it's probably the best episode we've had. There was several good. I'm not gonna say now by me being exaggerating here. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy other seasons. I love other seasons, but I think this is probably the best episode of Supernatural we have seen in 4 years.
Oh,
damn.
Okay, there's been a lot of good episodes. I'm not saying there has been a lot of good episodes since then, but I think this is on my top 5 episodes immediately of all time. I think it goes on that top 5. Now, the decision to make Akar a character was a smart move on the side of the creative team, the writers and producers, etc., for a lot of reasons. Because by doing so, they were able to tell a very personal story. With well-chosen camera angles to help aid with the emotional responses that they were wishing to convey. Because every single camera shot was there to invoke a specific emotion. It wasn't just, hey guys, we're going to strap a camera here and it's going to look cool. Like you see so many TV shows doing nowadays with GoPros just to have some weird, unique shot. A perfect example of the intentional camera framing was when John Winchester, when young John Winchester, or whoever it was, whether it be Lucifer or whoever, appeared to Sam in a dream, the framing was very tight. If you guys noticed, it was very tight, which gave the viewer kind of like a heightened, I guess, sense of discomfort, and it was very intrusive. It was an intrusive camera angle. It was very, very close. At one point, it was an extreme CU on John's eye.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very intrusive, much like someone. And I think what they were trying to do, again, this is me analyzing it, but the intrusive feel was almost like as if someone was entering your dream.
Yeah.
How intrusive would it be?
Someone violating your memories of your dad because it's not your dad. That's a very personal memory.
Yeah. So traditionally, we don't see that type of camera work on, say, a network television show. When I say network television show, like ABC, CBS, CW, and that's because of many reasons, as we just went into, pertaining to Ryan and the mainstream audiences, but mostly because it needs to be done a certain way for massive mainstream digestion. So, as I said, there has to be more focus on coverage. Like, I think there's a lot of emphasis on getting your coverage shots, like long shots, medium shots, close-ups, and establishing shots. And I think by crafting this episode, to use your word, which I like, I think by having to craft this episode, they gave themselves more stricter rules to go by on the set, which gave them more creativity, and which actually helped propel the story in a better way than as if you went with the average coverage, typical coverage shots. Now, the camera blocking was grade A genius. The synergy between with Sergey, I believe, the cinematographer Sergey, and Thomas Wright, which was the director. We got to give him a shout out. I don't think we said his name.
We said it at the beginning.
Oh, did we? Okay. Yeah. Thomas Wright was astounding. I think their synergy and the way they worked together was just great. Each shot led to another reactionary plot movement. Okay. Shots were plot devices to propel the story. And again, use my words, and lead us from A to B to C. when I was talking about this episode with someone on Twitter, I likened this episode to someone kind of like skipping rocks across the surface of a lake. Each skip leads to a definitive path, and I felt like that's how well planned this was. It felt like the writers like skipping words across the page, making sure they all connect correctly.
You mean the old ripple effect?
Yeah, there you go. The car being called their home at the end, I think, was the highlight for me when Sam said, "We are home." The car has always been used symbolically as their home. I would say a place where their memories serve as pictures. This episode was also a healing episode, and I think they're coming together again as brothers. And I'm personally glad that we're seeing a healing process.
Yeah,
because I think
a lot of people are.
Yeah, and I think again, this is the best episode possible to see and to witness this healing process. To prove this with the healing process, the camera framed on the front window, which I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I think. To prove the camera was framed on the front window. We see the brothers through a soapy, smeared window. We're like, what are they doing? They're washing the car, cleansing, getting rid of the old baggage from the last 4 years. I think there was a lot more thought process on almost every shot.
Yeah.
And again, just to be a nerd about it, I think this is the what we witnessed is the reason why film nerds go to film school. I mean, this is a wet dream for film geeks.
Oh, yeah.
This episode, absolutely.
All right, so now that we have a fourth segment of the show with Mike's synopsis,
that was only like 3 minutes.
No, I mean, again, just reiterating everything both of you guys have said, this episode was phenomenal. The camera work, I'm not even going to go into any more than Mike just did, because why bother? Just absolutely amazing throughout the whole episode. Thomas Wright with this episode as a director, outstanding. For me, though, as it always is my do or die selling point, the writing on this episode. Robbie Thompson deserves a round of applause, slow clap, both, what have you. I loved every bit of this, whether it was the brothers making jokes about Dean, why are you wearing shorts, to my favorite scene of them just in the car, the references to mom and dad. And one of the things I've learned from writing and when I was in school was just weaving the story together, making sure all the elements tie together nice and neat. And this episode had a lot of that between Kripke's stuff, future goals of season 11, the brothers and their motivations and goals from season 1, 6, 10, 11, everything about that, bringing it together and making it feel like Supernatural back in the day, the classic rock music, the elements of them just being brothers, whether it's, hooking up with some chick or choosing, he's like, I'm choosing next time where they get food, or, Sam having shakes and Dean having beer, and he's like, where's the rest of the beer? That older brother, like, you fucked up, and then he's saved by Castiel's phone call. Just so many funny bits, so many outstanding writing bits, none of which were wasted. And that's so rare to find. And like Mike said, we haven't had that probably since Kripke's left the show, or maybe 1 or 2 episodes, truly outstanding episodes, since Kripke left. Which, in season 11, to say that at all is a testament to the quality of the show. So for me, again, this one is also an A+, so that's A+ around the board for everybody here. And with that, guys, I think we'll finally take a minute to stop sucking this one off and move on to the next episode when we come back in just a minute.
She was a black-haired beauty with big dark eyes and points all her own, sitting way up high. Way up firm and high. Out past the cornfields where the woods got heavy. Out in the back seat of my 60 Chevy. Working on mysteries without any clues. Working on our night moves.
Well, I'm not plotting to kill Barry Allen. I'm listening to Ryan Denton on Rain Man Digital's DC on CW.
Obviously, Caitlin made him go get a haircut. It was probably one of those things. She's like, you know what would make you a 10?
Get a haircut.
Get a haircut.
Dude, was it me or was she completely over the top trying to get him to stay? Like, dude, you couldn't have sucked his dick any more than the way you did it right there.
It's for science, Ryan.
Oh, I'm sure it is. The science of his penis and her vagina.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to be the first woman impregnated by an Earth 2 man.
For science.
For science.
Check out the new DC fan show, DC on CW, covering topics from The Arrow, The Flash, and the new upcoming television show, Legends of Tomorrow. Head over to RainmanDigitalMedia.com to get more details.
This is Star Wars from the Butter Tank exclusive.
I'm amazed at how stupid people are.
That's the dumbest theory I've ever heard.
They're not even trolls. They're just like idiots. I'm like, do you guys realize, number one, it would destroy Return of the Jedi? Number one. It's like deductive reasoning skills gone awry. It's like, well, Luke Skywalker's not in the trailer or the poster, so this means that Luke Skywalker, A and B equals C, and Luke Skywalker has to be Kylo Ren.
Exactly.
It's deductive reasoning skills gone awry. I'm amazed at how stupid people are.
From thebatthetank.com for more details. And get ready for an excitingly good time. Also, if you've missed our last show, you can also find us on your Stitcher app. Search Back to Tank. Add us to your favorites. Thank you, and we will see you very soon.
Pistol shots ring out in a barroom night. Enter Betty Valentine from the upper hall. She sees a bartender in a pool of blood. Cries out, my God, they've killed them all. Here comes the story.
All right, guys, we're at the last segment of the show here where we're going to be talking about the upcoming episode. This one is called Thin Lizzy. Ryan, you got a synopsis for us?
Yes. Sam and Dean investigate a series of murders at a local B&B, bed and bath, I believe.
Bread and breakfast.
Bread and breakfast, sorry. Bed and breakfast. Bed, Bath, and Beyond. Whatever. That also happens to be Lizzie Borden's old home. When a local man, Lynn, tells them he saw a little girl around the B&B around the time of the murders, the brothers realize Amara may be responsible. Rashad Ernesto Green directed the episode, and it was written by Nancy Wan.
I am surprised, honestly, just from the get-go, that we haven't dealt with Lizzie Borden before. I mean, we've dealt with a bunch of other obscure historical figures that have had supernatural elements tied to their life. You know, whether it was H.H. Holmes, the serial killer, or I can never remember the guy's name, the blues singer in season 2 when they introduced Hellhounds and deals with the devil at the Crossroads in the first place. Lizzie Borden is pretty well known in that element. I'm surprised it took us this long to get to her.
Yeah, because she's very iconic pop culture figure.
People know about that and the little nursery rhyme and all that shit.
And
That's pretty fucked up
she's
story.
a big serial killer enthusiast too. Like people, not her, but people like who are serial killer enthusiasts.
They like her, yeah.
They like her. There's so much mystery around her character, or what she did and what she didn't do. Ryan, have you heard of her before?
I actually haven't.
She's the girl that killed her family,
Lizzie
right?
Borden took an axe, gave her father 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father mother 41.
He knows the rhyme, the nursery
She
rhyme.
just out of nowhere axed her parents to death. Yeah. And,
all right.
I mean, Mike, if you or one of you guys can bring up like a wiki about it, because that's the only element I know is that it was evidently like out of nowhere and for no provoked reason. And this was in I want to say the late 1800s or early 1900s. I'm not sure which one.
I'm not sure.
Do we have?
She was acquitted though.
Lizzie, hold on. Do you have?
Yeah, I pulled up.
Oh, good. That's not creepy as hell.
God damn it, it's creepy
Jeez,
as
dude,
hell.
turn that shit off. I'm gonna have nightmares.
Please, Supernatural, use that. Oh my God, dude, this might be a good old-fashioned scary episode.
I would love that, dude, especially because we've been darker this season so far.
Please don't get my hopes up, because I don't want to. I'm getting so hyped.
You're getting shoved up, aren't you?
I'm getting so hyped in this season that I'm going to end up being disappointed now. Watch.
I'm not going to fucking say a goddamn word about this next episode because I was
go in and say something I don't want to see, so it's right.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those...
Dude, turn that shit off.
This is one of those old Jack the Ripper level, what the F actually happened
you know
stories.
I do remember this story. I do remember it now that I think about it. The hatchet head was found in the basement, right?
Yes.
I believe so.
And
But
I watched a documentary about a month ago about
even the documentary's creepy.
Yeah, and they actually showed the axe head, the real axe head. They had there's a museum that has it in storage, and they showed the real axe head, and I was like, they talked about it.
It was weird because it's a really creepy story because back in the day they had obviously no way to really prove
forensics.
there's no forensics, so they went back in the show that I was watching, and used forensics to go back to they went back to the scene of the crime with modern day forensics.
I watched the same documentary
and found so many things that led to this. People think
you're gonna have to send me this documentary because I haven't seen this.
But it was basically they were able to figure out that she was the one who in fact murdered her family just through sheer forensics. I mean, they found blood
splatters.
Their blood was everywhere to this day in their house. That she washed it out.
What kind of crime and what kind of driving, motivating force led in the late 1800s to do that level of gore and brutality? And this is like, Victorian era.
There was a rumor. There was a rumor that her father was a rapist. Like he molested her whole life, and her mother didn't do anything to stop it. So that's why. I mean, listen, I'm not a. I might co-sign that.
I could see the co-signing that because I don't know the specifics. But when you just take it at face value, this is what she did.
Yeah.
That's still troubling, and especially for
the way it was done,
the brutality.
They hit someone in the fucking head with an axe 40 times.
But again, I'm just surprised Supernatural has never touched on that before. So, and with Has Been Darker, I hate to be it because it only hurts, but I'm a little hyped for this one too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say nothing.
Well, okay, let's talk about the writer. There's a new writer. Nancy Wan. I've never heard about.
I don't think we've heard of her.
I just
before.
Googled her, and I guess she joined Supernatural as a writer and consulting producer for season 11. She had previously worked with Jeremy Carver on the sci-fi series Being Human, which, if you guys remember, he left Supernatural for a couple years to go do that show, and then came back. Obviously, Being Human for the series' entire run as a writer. Juan also worked with Robbie Thompson on his series Jericho. So she knows some big players. Yeah.
Here. And if they brought her on at this point in the show, they have to have some serious confidence.
Bring it on. Here's the new blood we were talking about. Remember, we've been talking about who's the new blood? Let's add this name to the list. We have Bob Singer is out, our executive consultant.
Right.
No longer directly involved in the creative process. And then we have Andrew Dabb left. No, not Andrew Dabb. Glass. Adam Glass left.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Juan in, Nancy Wan. So that's one new blood in, two out.
I'm really interested to see this episode, not only because I like the source material on this, and the season's been very good so far, but because she is new blood. I want to see what she's going to bring to the table.
Yeah.
Has she been watching the show all these years, or binge watched at least, or is this going to be an Abaddon? What do you think?
Well, so stupid. Obviously, you watch a protege. I would even consider her a protege. She worked with Carver and Thompson on his series.
They brought her on.
She's probably, as just going off on the people that I've interviewed, producers, television producers, and whatnot. Most of the time, when you bring on a writer that you've worked with before, they're your protege, and they're not ignoring your work. They probably watched everything you've done. So she's probably aware of the world of Supernatural. You know what? Let me talk. Let's see if I can get her on.
There we go.
Talk to her a bit.
That'd be good.
Sorry, I'm still reading this freaking wiki about Lizzie.
It's creepy.
Dude, I am so enthralled by
this. Now, do you guys think this will be Amara, or do you think this will be like a traditional ghost story, or something different entirely?
I think it's going to be a Monster of the Week story with a little bit of lore, new lore introduced.
That I don't have a problem with that, actually. We've had 4 episodes all tied directly to the main plot in some way or another. This one was technically Monster of the Week, but it really was just the brothers and their advancement as characters, so that gets a pass. But if it is a Monster of the Week with the guise of they think they're hunting down their quarry of Amara, I'm fine with that, because that would be a believable step for them.
Yeah.
Where they are right now. It wouldn't be some kind of Leviathan, well, nothing we can do, I guess we'll go hunt vampires, element that was season 7.
Yeah.
Dude, I know I keep going back to this. I'm reading this article, this wiki. It says the victim's head were removed during autopsy. The skulls were used as evidence during the trial, and Borden fainted upon seeing them. The heads were later buried at the foot of each grave.
She's an actress.
Dude.
Yeah, it's a messed up story.
No shit.
That's crazy.
Whether she had justifiable reasons to be that
still
hateful,
weird,
or she just did it randomly, no matter what, that's a disturbing story.
Yeah,
absolutely, dude.
And this is the kind of thing that originally drew me into Supernatural with Bloody Mary and all those dark stories that, if you read those Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books as a kid, you fucking love that shit and this show. So I'm actually excited, and I'm amazed that I'm excited 2 weeks in a row, let alone. Not because I don't like Supernatural, just because I'm never excited about anything.
Yeah.
You aren't. You're never excited about anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world's worst customer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, a couple things on Facebook, Thomas.
Yes.
Is Lynn Montanari posted saying, questions for you guys. She poses, and I answered this, but it started making me think about possibly there's other listeners out there who think the same thing. She said, if Bob Singer was demoted, as you have said, why is he still listed as an executive producer on the scripts? And I commented immediately because I wanted to make sure people realize we're not the ones. We're not saying he's demoted. We are quoting or paraphrasing Supernatural-based rumors. So we don't know if he's demoted. We don't know if he stepped down. We don't know if this is considered a promotion.
Right.
We're just going off of rumors that's circulating in the web, and then we're making jokes about it because that's what we do. We're cynical.
Yeah.
We're cynical douchebags. Now, I'm going to read exactly what I wrote to her because it's the best way to explain it to other people who may be thinking the same thing. I said, we never said he was demoted. We were addressing internet rumors. Also, Jim Michaels is the one that tweeted out that Bob was no longer an executive producer and was now an executive consultant. Now, to address your question pertaining to the script, that could be due to numerous things. The first reason would be that he was still executive producer when this particular script episode was being produced. And that would mean he would get the appropriate credit.
Right.
So that answers that. And I hope that answers any other questions that maybe people might be thinking that, we're just maybe making things up, or we don't have an inside track. Jim Michaels didn't call us and say, hey guys, Bob Singer is demoted. We're going off solely off his tweet and the rumors that followed.
We like to have fun here, but we're also not an exact news source. We are going based off, talkings in the fandoms, articles we've seen, like Mike said, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram posts that have been circulating, and frankly, the rumor mill a bit. So I think we're pretty good about saying our source if we have a direct source, but otherwise, sometimes, guys, it is just speculation of what we think based on our experience in with Mike, like in movies and television and stuff like that, and what we've put together. And like we said, maybe we'll have like a tinfoil hat corner.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Half the shit I say is made up. So, I mean, if I say it, guys, definitely don't take it with a grain of salt.
All right, here's a bold statement on Facebook pertaining to the 11 seasons in the show. The show produces one of his strongest hours ever. I posted that article that you read earlier in the episode. Nancy Shipman, I agree. This was maybe as good or better than The French Mistake.
Ooh.
No.
Yeah. Well, I put bold statement, very bold.
Yeah. That is a bold statement.
I mean,
it's different.
Technically and creatively, very good, and maybe equal.
I would agree with that.
Taste-wise, I think it all comes down to taste, because I don't think one is better artistically than the other. I think they're both equally artistically good. But
see, here's my thing.
It comes down to taste.
I would argue almost that Baby is more artistically creative or artistically sound. Like it did more from a film aspect.
Yeah.
While The French Mistake is more creative from a written meta humor standpoint. To think that you would try it, let alone pull it off, to jump dimensions into this world and how you would have the characters interact with real versions of people like Misha Collins versus Castiel and things like that. I feel like that was more creatively written. This one was just well written, while Baby was more creatively shot.
Yeah.
So apples and oranges in some ways, but both incredibly great episodes.
I posted on Facebook. I got everything I asked for in this episode. Ryan was way off. Ha ha ha. Hashtag Supernatural. Sarah Shepard comes on and says, thank goodness Ryan was wrong. Amazing episode in every aspect.
Face, she doesn't hate you.
And Dean finally got to shoot the deputy after shooting the sheriff so many seasons ago. I love that callback.
Yeah.
I love that we didn't talk about that enough. Like that callback to the, season 2?
Oh, Christ.
Season 3, maybe? It was when that one cop was after them, remember? And the whole
season 2.
And,
no.
No, it was season.
Shit.
When was the zombies? The first version, the Croatoan, because that's when it was.
Oh god damn.
Remember when he
4?
killed? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. So I love that callback. And then she says, "I love that Robbie is such a fan. It really comes through in his episodes. He knew the jerk bitch, and using John for the twist would work because the fans would love it. Robbie Thompson is my hero." Nancy Shipman says Ryan was so wrong. No, so wrong. Jennifer
Ryan's like, all right, and that one goes on the list, and this one goes on the list.
It's all right.
Jennifer Brown says, just watched the show, loved it, surprised by it. It didn't quite go the direction I expected, but this is Supernatural. They aim to amaze me. Can we just give a shout out to all the badass tight space fight scenes? Yeah, absolutely.
There's a surprising amount of good fight scenes for being in the backseat of a car.
Sometimes the best stuff happens in the backseat.
As Sam knows.
Sam.
Gretchen Engel says, I think I was the only person in KC watching Supernatural instead of the Royals. And I really like the Royals. I just love the Winchesters more.
Decisions.
Yeah.
Sophie's choice right there.
Exactly.
Well, let's be honest. You guys wouldn't watch the World Series no matter what. So
I've watched it before.
Listen, I don't care. I wouldn't even let sex interrupt me, as you guys learned earlier. So I mean,
no, because you were Netflix and chilling with yourself while you're watching it anyway.
Exactly.
He's gonna watch Netflix. She's gonna chill.
Listen, babe. I don't care if it's DVR'd. Let me finish watching.
So dumb.
I can't pause it.
Put your clothes back on.
Oh man, I think that's it. That's all we have.
All right, guys, that's going to do it here for us at Supernatural The Crossroads. Thanks for listening to us blather on about this episode. Hopefully you liked this episode. Maybe a 10th as much as Baby, and that'd be pretty fucking good then.
All right, let's just go out like this. Ready?
Okay.
Just what?
Suck our dicks! Suck our dicks! Suck our dicks!
That'll do it for us, guys.
Suck our dicks!
Yeah. Well, you heard it here. So can you say Ryan Denton? Say this, please, Rob. Ryan Denton, I am God. Please say that.
Ryan Denton.
You're not God.
All right, before Ryan kills all of us in here, that's going to do it for us guys at Supernatural The Crossroads. Remember, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Crossroads SPN, Bold Irishman, The Ryan Denton, and we will see you guys all next week.
Suck our dicks! Suck our dicks! You little maggot. You are no longer a part of this story. Hey, ass butt.